Hi, my name is Miguel Ruiz. I'm chairman of the Board of Ethics for the City of Chicago. You're about to watch an important program which describes the ethics ordinance. The ethics law can be a bit confusing as it does deal with conflicts of interest situations. Please watch carefully. You can always contact the Board of Ethics for information regarding the ordinance and any questions you may have. Thank you for watching.
Hello, I'm Bob Wallace. As city employees and officials, you're invested with public trust. Now, the city's ethics rules help you maintain the integrity of that trust. And really, they're pretty straightforward, so let's go through them one by one. From time to time, you may, as a city official or employee, be offered things of value. Things like gifts, gratuities, or honoraria. The law says that an occasional gift from someone who can gain or lose by actions on your city job, perhaps a fruit basket or a ticket to a ball game, is acceptable, as long as it isn't valued higher than $50. But neither you, your spouse, or minor child can solicit or accept money for anything of value in return for advice or assistance on matters concerning any city business. In addition, the law says neither you, your spouse, or your minor child may accept any anonymous gift or a gift based on any mutual understanding that your decisions will be affected in any way by the gift, and no cash gift may be accepted at any time. Awards and honorary degrees are acceptable, but if you receive an honorarium, it must be reported to the Board of Ethics within 5 days. And of course, you can accept any gift on behalf of the city itself, but you have to notify both the Board of Ethics and the Comptroller's Office. Now let's suppose you're asked to attend a public event or a ceremony that's related to official city business. If certain conditions are met, hosting expenses for official travel may be accepted. However, you could run afoul of the ethics laws if those expenses are being paid for by a third party. So let's take a look at the details. You may accept reasonable hosting expenses if those expenses are paid for by the sponsor of the event. These can include food, lodging, car rental, and airline fares. But always keep that key word in mind, reasonable. As a city official or employee, you may be called upon to demonstrate that your travel expenses were reasonable. Under the city's ethics laws, it's quite clear. City employees and officials must avoid a conflict of interest. Now, the law gets pretty detailed here, but it all boils down to this. If you have an economic interest in any matter before the city or government, you can't use your position to influence that matter, and you can't make or participate in any government decision about that matter. You also can't represent or have an economic interest in the representation of any person before any city agency, except in the performance of your city duty. And you can't have an economic interest in the representation of a person in a judicial or quasi-judicial proceeding if that person's interest is adverse to the city's, and if the city is a party to those proceedings. Neither can you, whether in your own or someone else's name, have a financial interest in city business. But if your spouse has an independent business, your spouse may have a financial interest in a city contract. There are also specific laws directed at city council members. For example, if a council member has an economic interest in any matter pending before the city council or one of its committees, that council member must disclose that interest and abstain from voting on the matter. This also applies if the council member has a business relationship with any person who has a matter pending before the council or a committee. In private industry, if you hire your brother or your daughter, that's usually not a problem. However, when it comes to city government, the rules are very different. You can't hire, advocate the hiring of, or supervise any relative in any agency in which you serve or exercise authority, supervision, and control over. Now, the one exception to this rule is the aldermen with respect to their personal staff. Now let's take a look at political fundraising. Most importantly, political contributions must be made voluntarily. You can't coerce, compel, or intimidate anyone into making a contribution. And by the way, no one is allowed to coerce or compel you either. And unless you are yourself a candidate for public office, you can't knowingly accept or solicit political contributions from any person doing or seeking to do business with the city. And one other very important point. You cannot serve on any political fundraising committee if you have contract management authority over city contracts. Some of the ethics laws are pretty obvious. You can't, for example, use or permit the use of any city property or equipment for anything other than its authorized function. You can't use or disclose confidential information. And finally, you're a city official or employee now, but there's a good chance there will be professional life after this. And for many of you, the city's laws keep affecting what you can do. For example, for 1 year, you may not work on any project involving the city if you were personally and substantially involved in that project during your term of office or employment. And if you had management authority over any city contracts, you're permanently prohibited from working on those contracts. If, as a city employee or elected official, you were counsel of record, or if you participated personally and substantially in any judicial or administrative proceeding involving the city, then you can't assist or represent anyone in that proceeding other than the city itself.
I'm Steve Berlin, the Executive Director of the City of Chicago's Board of Ethics. The program that you just saw doesn't cover all the ethics rules, but our idea and our hope is that it will help you to identify when there's a potential ethics problem and know where to call for expert confidential advice. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us or send us an email. It's better to know in advance than to find yourself in trouble later on. Thanks for watching.